Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Gonna do a little more reading today. Sorry. This is my work I do from home. So I don't necessarily know where to start with this. It's not necessarily a rabbit hole. But I'm a gamer. I do not wear glasses so I can see better. These are blue light glasses, and I spend a lot of time in front of my computer. So, in order to mitigate any kind of eye damage or anything that I could get, I wear these. So, no, it's not for aesthetics. It's not because I need them. It's just I don't want to go blind eventually. So, today I wanted to go through Sweet Baby Inc. I'm a gamer, and it's very obvious that this company has made a lot of waves. They have an agenda behind the things that they push. They when they creep themselves into these, and it's not even they're creeping into these companies. These companies hire them. They wanted this, right? This is not, they're not like preying on some poor video game developers. These guys actively sought these folks out. And we can get into that later. But in the meantime, just wanted to go through a brief history of this company, what exactly they do, and what are they known for. So I got a few articles up here. May jump back and forth between work and this. It is what it is. I need to feed myself and my fucking fur brother over there, so I can't make sure that I'm dedicating 100% of time to this. So anyway, Sweet Baby Inc. is an award-winning team of writers and narrative designers who help make stories better. With over 30 games shipped from the AAA, indie, and solo developers, we are not just contractors, we are storytellers who can take your project to the next level. Script writing. Hold on. We work within scope to cover all your script writing needs, from cinematics and dialogue to naming 500 pieces of armor. We know every word counts. Is this a game they worked on? Never heard of it before. Makes sense. Consultation. No matter the stages of production, we can strengthen story pitches, world building, and character development needs, and other narrative design demands. Marvel Spider-Man 2. Never played it. Oh, here's an interesting one. Alan Wake 2. Authenticity and sensitivity. God, gross. We approach sensitivity by working with your existing narrative and documentation to bring out its natural authenticity and emotional resonance. We don't look for red flags, we highlight green ones. Look, it's impressive that this game won Game of the Year and still has yet to turn a profit. Make that very clear. South of Midnight. Another very controversial game. After Love EP, never heard of it. Sable, never heard of it. This was a great game. God of War Ragnarok was a great game. The Crew Motorfest, haven't heard of it. Battle Shapers. Just the look of the characters, I wouldn't play it, right? It just doesn't, the designs suck. Outreach and workshops. Our experienced team of writers and narrative designers are ready and available to provide workshops, talks, and general insight to your team. Let us show you how we dig beneath the narrative surface. Now, I will say this, right? This website, the way that there's like a special cursor and all this, I don't know who worked on this, and it's got the fucking trans colors, right? So I don't know who worked on this, but they did this. I'm not a website designer, but this is like a 5-year old's website. This looks like something. When I was in elementary school, Neopets was a thing. And it was really just an online forum where you'd get the animals and, yada, yada, yada. It was kind of like Pokemon in a sense. That's what I get from this. This is what that reverts me to when it comes to the way that I see this. It comes off very childish. And yes, it's called Sweet Baby Inc., right? But what a tricky name for a company that is supposedly doing business consultation for these massive corporations, right? Learn more, interested in working with us. Let's see, outreach and workshops. Let's see what they got to say about this. Not very optimized. Okay, so they don't actually like show you on their website what they do. There's a contact form. That's it. Which is probably what? Bro, this website is fucking trash. So I would have to request information from this like 2008 style website. I mean, this is not it, aside from like things like fading in with an opacity filter over top of it. This website looks like shit. Yeah. So learn more and contact us here. Both send me to the same place. Watch. Yo, I got a gig of RAM. All right. This is not my computer taking this long. Okay, I'm finished with that. All right. So I'm gonna go over more articles that seem like it's gonna fluff this company, and then I'm gonna really look into this thing. So we'll go to the Atlantic, right? Absolute fucking joke of a publication. These are the same people that wrote an article that said highly processed foods may not be that bad for you. Here's why. What the fuck, dude? Like, these people are fucking crazy. Some like half-assed political content here. As choose your player, Republican or Democrat. That's while Representative Al Green of Texas started shouting and waving his cane around during Donald Trump's address to Congress last month, pundits described the Democrat as causing a disruption, pulling a stunt, or peacefully protesting. In the wilds of online alternative media, another term was being used: maulding. yeah, no, he was maulding for sure. Mauled is a blend of mad and bald. It's video gamer slang for getting so angry after suffering a loss that you pull your hair out. Yes, correct. I learned, it's butthurt is another good way to say it. I learned the word by watching Twitch, the streaming platform that's famous for turning video games into a spectator sport, and that has of late become an important forum for political commentary. No, it has not, dude. No, it has not. The the two biggest political streamers on that site are Hassan and arguably not even Asmongold, because he's not really like a political commentator. He does give like his gamer perspective on things, but he's mostly just like he's a just chatting streamer that talks about all sorts of different shit. Politics is one aspect of what he talks about, and he games like half of his stream. So the biggest political commentator on Twitch, strictly political, is Hassan. And look, this is just an opinion. He doesn't have any important political commentary. He's not someone who most people would go to find an objective view on things. He's just a lefty who spouts his own ideals. And judging by how things have gone recently, the guy isn't very popular. So it's a pretty big stretch to say that Twitch is an important forum for political commentary. That's a fucking stretch, dude. One of the most popular Twitch streamers right now is a 35-year-old World of Warcraft expert who goes by the name Asmongold and primarily streams under the handle Zach Rar. Correct. He is very popular. On the day after Trump's congressional address, Asmongold kicked off his stream by telling his viewers he was excited to finish playing the new game Monster Hunter Wilds, which is badass, and to sort through the fallout of Trump's speech. He pulled up... Oh, dude, I gotta pay to read this fucking crap. Whatever. He pulled up a TV news interview in which Green explained that he'd interrupted the president to object to potential Medicaid cuts, which haven't happened yet. Like, I'm saying yet, but, like, none of that shit's happened. Asmongold offered his view. Interrupting Trump was tantamount to mauling out, which makes people think you're a fucking retard. Yes, 100%. Asmongold, whose name is, I don't need to drop his name, is a prominent member of a class of influencers that has been helping remake the American electorate. That's such a stretch, dude. That's not true, bro. That's not true. My man highlights pretty common sense viewpoints that people are attracted to because they already hold those viewpoints. There's a lot of shit that Asmongold believes in that I don't agree with whatsoever. But the stuff I do agree with him on and already had those ideals is what keeps me tuned into his stream. But he's not changing my idea or my mind on any of the things that I already disagree with him on. Because it really, when I watch his stream, unlike someone like Hassan, I don't feel like someone's trying to pitch an idea at me. Okay? And that's big. When I watch somebody, it's, to a large degree, and I can be completely honest with this, when I watch people online, it is almost entirely out of some form of confirmation bias. I do listen to people I don't agree with, but they themselves are not going to change my beliefs. I think the issue, and this is how they talk about these things. This is what it makes me think, right? They got to this point somewhere along the line where they believe that they controlled the way that people think about things in a very general perspective. And I believe they got that way because of things like the country's reaction to 9/11. The support for us going overseas after 9/11, you can attribute that largely to the coverage of it. And it was all the news like, there wasn't this vast divide between news networks and the shit that they said. Yeah, there were some that were left wing, but Bush didn't get the kind of criticisms that Trump got from, like, MSNBC and CNN. They may have lobbied some criticism, but that was some. They weren't cashing in on a click rate by just bringing up his name, because you did have a lot of people who generally supported George Bush and supported us going overseas. But that's because all of these news, this like legacy media news fucking monopoly, essentially, were all speaking in support of going overseas. They were all speaking in support of us going to fight this war and find Osama bin Laden, you know? And I just believe that, like, it seems like they over time were heavily convinced that they were the ones who were in control of the narrative. And the way that they speak about things, people are just going to fucking buy it from them because they're the experts. Divert it to the expert class. Everything. Well, now, people don't fucking trust them, especially after COVID. Holy shit. They got everything wrong. They called us bad people for not taking a vaccine. And as time went on, more and more information comes out that there's a chance now that people who got the shot were at higher levels of risk than people who didn't. And I'm not even here to talk vaccines, right? I'm here to talk about media. So I can't finish this article, obviously, but okay, because it's crazy to me. These people believe that there's like a power structure rising up against them, when the thing is they didn't have the power. They could use events and piggyback off of events to drum up support, but they never had the power to just say something and make it so, right? That's the thing. So now these people, since they've lost their credibility and they're on the wrong side of things, it seems like fucking 75% of the time, people aren't going to them. They don't have popular ideas. See, they can't say something and convince somebody of something that someone does not believe in. People who already believe something are going to jump on that if they agree with it, right? That's the case with Asmongold. He says a lot of shit that a lot of people agree with, and that's why he's popular. And as time goes on, if he continues to say the thing that most people fucking agree with, he's going to stay popular. But if he starts, hypothetically, if he starts going off on a bunch of fucking crazy shit that a lot of people don't agree with, they're going to start tuning out. He's not influencing people. See, that's this word right here, influencers, okay? No, these people don't influence anybody, okay? Fitness influencers, most folks, when they see someone who's real fit, they're just going to listen to them because they already have the idea that they want to get fit. No one's going to watch a YouTube video or listen to somebody talk online and it change their mind. That's not how these things happen. People are sovereign. They have their own belief structures and they have their own like paradigm in which they think, right? So if someone says something they agree with, they gravitate towards it because we love confirmation, or at least I do, because I love confirmation bias. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but it seems like that's a pretty like reasonable stance. And people tune away from things they don't fucking agree with, especially when there's a lack of credibility. So this is not people influencing. This is people just speaking the popular. This is such dramatic language. Like, these are fucking theater kids, bro. That's helping remake the American electorate. No, dude. No. Asmongold had nothing to do with Trump winning the popular vote. You know what had to do with Trump winning the popular vote? Trump saying the thing that more people agree with. That's it. Like, I know it's devastating to these, like, hardcore lefties that people don't agree with the things that they say. Unless people are buying into the bullshit that they spread. I know. It's fucking crazy. And it must seem like the world is falling apart to these folks. But they're losing the narrative. That's it. And they did it to themselves. No one else did this to them. They can point fingers at Asmongold. They can point fingers at Fox. They can point fingers at Trump. But they will not point the finger at themselves, and they're the ones that fucking did this. They are the ones who created this new paradigm where nobody trusts what you have to say. You look like lunatics when you try to make your points, and people walk away from it. I mean, it's baffling to me, the level of, like, the lack of accountability that these people are willing to take for themselves. And what's crazy is taking that accountability and not going, yeah, it was a bad thing, sorry, that's not going to cut it. Apologies don't mean shit. Especially when your policies lead to thousands of people. Anyway, I'm not even going to get into it. So we're talking about Sweet Baby Inc. here. So, no, they don't. Asmongold is not remaking the American electorate, bro. He's just saying the thing. That's it. If y'all were to say the thing, there'd be a lot more support behind the Democrats and this kind of messaging. But they're afraid to say the thing. Sweet Baby Inc. detected. What actually happened and why should you care? An inclusion-focused narrative company. Narrative company, see? Right there. I mean, they say it. They say it. It's a narrative company. This is a company that gets hired by video game developers so they can push an agenda inside of the average man's escapism. Back the fuck off. It's that simple. Has sparked a heated debate online between gamers and people in the industry. Yeah, because anybody who knows anything about these big gaming development companies, they know that these people don't give a fuck about the people buying their games. They make that very clear. Like, what kind of a pitch is this? If you don't like what's in my product, it's not made for you. No shit. We already knew that. But anybody with brand loyalty that has a constructive criticism for your newest product, you didn't attract nobody, but you sure as fuck lost them. Sweet Baby Inc. has become the focus of some gamers' ire on social media, but what happened and why should you care? Here's everything you need to know about the latest discourse in the gaming industry from an impartial and fact-based viewpoint. Let's see how impartial and fact-based this is. Who is Sweet Baby Inc.? The company's About Us section says, founded in 2018, Sweet Baby Inc. is a narrative development and consultation studio based in Montreal and working around the globe. Oh, so they're a bunch of French Canadians. Our mission is to tell better, more empathetic stories. Tell better? Define that. More empathetic stories while diversifying and enriching the video game industry. While diversifying and enriching. Okay, so I've seen that. They do tell more empathetic stories. And they're diversifying. But enriching, yet to see it. Better stories, yet to see it. These are two pretty. See, this is subjective. This is an opinion. This is an opinion. This is fact. We aim to make games more engaging, more fun, more meaningful, and more inclusive for everyone. You haven't done a very good job. I wonder how much they make, like, by these big game devs. Like, it's crazy to me. Sweet Baby Inc. has worked on several high-profile titles such as God of War Ragnarok, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake, and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Okay, so I can say God of War Ragnarok, great game. Don't know anything about Spider-Man 2. Haven't played it, haven't looked into it. I have nothing to say about it. Alan Wake, on the other hand, it did win Game of the Year, but has still yet to turn a profit. And then Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League would have been a monumental failure, but it was followed up with the other monumental failures that Sweet Baby Inc. had something to do with. Funny enough, they don't have Concord in here. They don't have Flintlock in here. They don't have Assassin's Creed. Wait, when was this published? Okay, this was 2024. All right. I'll give them that. This is an older article. What does Sweet Baby Inc. do? According to the company's website, Sweet Baby Inc. bring in diverse voices to solve diverse problems. Sweet Baby Inc. provides narrative consultation at any stage of development, boasting a team of diverse talent and vetted industry experience to best bring your story to life. That's not a bad sales pitch, you know? Representation. Oh, God. You know where my representation is supposed to be? My representation. Oh, sorry. My representation is supposed to be in the House. That's it. My House representative is my representation. My senator is my representation. Outside of representation, or outside of that, representation is basically fucking meaningless. It's a virtue signal. If it, for my representation to have any tangible results, that is going to be in the people that I vote in and nothing else. There's no other tangible representation. Aside from that, it is just a fucking virtue signal. Here's a comprehensive list of what Sweet Baby Inc. can potentially work on if it's hired. Writing, cinematics, dialogue, UI UX writing, barks, copywriting, etc. Narrative, story pitches, world building, character creation, narrative design, story feedback and tweaks, and more. Representation, cultural consultation, sensitivity and inclusivity reading, risk and opportunities assessment, and more. Development, full-scale game development, and interactive fiction. What started the Sweet Baby Inc. backlash? The controversy began after a Sweet Baby Inc. employee, Chris Kindred, highlighted a Steam curator group called Sweet Baby Inc. Detected on X, formerly known as Twitter. Kindred has since deleted these posts, but they've been documented below. Kindred accused the group of harassment, tagged the creator and Steam, and said even with the discriminatory language filed off, the group itself still fails the code of conduct. Yeah, because all they were doing was showing what companies and what games had Sweet Baby Inc. stuck their dirty fucking fingers in. That's all they did. Kindred then asked the followers to report the fuck out of this group and to report the creator since he loves his account so much. This is malding. When they were talking about malding in that Atlantic article, This is what they were talking about. He's mauling. He's pissed. Why are you so upset that somebody is going through the games that you're part of and just letting people know you had a hand in them? What's the problem with that? Someone mind telling me? Is there an issue with people knowing what games your company had something to do with? And if that's the case, why is it an issue? What do you know that we don't? Kindred was subsequently banned for 6 days for breaching X policies on targeted harassment. Yeah, I mean, you literally, you're accusing them of harassment, but you're basically fucking doxing people. Like, not all the way, but you're opening people up to brigading from the people that follow you on X, Twitter, whatever. Another Sweet Baby Inc. employee, Felix Maya Kramer, also weighed in on the Steam Curator Group and said, for example, Steam doesn't have guidelines for curators, as far as I can tell, that would prevent someone from starting a curation group that focuses on, say, Sweet Baby Inc. and warns people not to not buy games they're associated with, which could just list any game at all. Yes. See, so here's the thing, right? Again, they want so bad to be in a position of control over all these things that anybody who, all they have to do is tell people what games you were part of, and people won't buy them. They're not being convinced not to buy them. People already don't like your company. They already have it in their head that y'all represent something that is bad. We were already aware before that you're putting bullshit in games that people don't want to fucking see. They don't want to be talked down to from an ivory tower by some fucking educated liberal who's going to tell them the way they need to think, who's going to tell them the way they need to act, who's going to try their hardest to make you guilty for something that you don't have anything to do with. They already know that. No one's convincing people not to play the games that you're part of. They're just letting people know what games you're a part of. Aha. And then the reader's context says this curator uses Sweet Baby Inc.'s website as their source. So, these people are ridiculous, dude. Kramer's post received a community note as the Sweet Baby Inc. detected page provides links to sources that prove the company's involvement in each game listed. It also doesn't tell anyone not to buy games the company has worked on. It merely lists them. Kramer and Kindred's attempts to ban the Sweet Baby Inc. detected Steam Curator Group resulted in a huge backlash for some gamers online and raised questions about the company as a whole. Unfortunately, this context is missing from Sweet Baby Inc.'s Wikipedia page, which tells a rather one-sided version of the event. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, straight up, dude, fuck Wikipedia. Like, Wikipedia, it does have good information on there, but there's a lot of really, like, muddy wording that they use on only on certain pages that I mean, it just showcases what kind of a bias these people have towards certain subjects. And at one point, Wikipedia was the go-to for any kind of factual information. Now, when you market yourself as the internet encyclopedia, and you have one thing that is wrong or not objectively provable, you lose the credibility of your entire fucking like database. It's tarnished. And you could say, well, it's a very big website and they have a lot of information on there. There's bound to be something wrong. There shouldn't be. There should not be anything wrong when you market yourself as a pinnacle of objectivity. What is Sweet Baby Inc. Detected? Sweet Baby Inc. Detected is a Steam curator group created by ex-user Cabrutus Rambo that highlights games Sweet Baby Inc. has been involved with and a link to sources that back up those claims. So my man just brought receipts. And from what it's saying up here, they're using their own fucking website as a source. What's wrong with that? The list only includes games on Steam, hence why the title like Alan Wake 2 is missing, as it's exclusive to the Epic Games Store. Users can follow the group, which now has over 4 million members. Do they mean to put 400,000? Probably. If they'd like to avoid purchasing Sweet Baby Inc. titles in the future, or at least be made aware of their involvement. So far, according to our research, the group does not ask people to boycott or target these games negatively in any way. As the group's About page states, Sweet Baby Inc. Detected is a tracker for games involved with Sweet Baby Inc. So they don't even fucking tell people not to buy these games. See, that's the thing right there, right? These folks spin this narrative that it warns people not to buy the games. No, it doesn't. All it does is show what games that you're part of. That's it. Why is that an issue? Do you know? Something that we don't? Maybe it's that your ideas are really unpopular. If I was proud of something that I was doing, let's be very clear here. If I was proud of something that I was doing, regardless of any kind of like dissent, people that don't believe what I believe or whatever, I would be thanking this guy. Genuinely. I'd be thanking them. But, because to me, if I'm proud of something and someone's telling a large swath of people that I'm part of something, to me, that's me getting credit. It makes no sense why I would want as many people as possible to know I was part of something if I was proud of it. If I was proud of it. Why is Sweet Baby Inc. controversial? In a nutshell, Sweet Baby Inc. has been accused of making games worse in a bid to help companies meet their ESG, and we're going to go into that one, boy, and DEI targets. Wall Street. That's what that means. Giving them a bigger score from BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, Jane Street, all these fucking massive Wall Street firms, so they'll invest more money. It's also come under fire for allegedly forcing its employees' political ideologies into the games it has worked on. Yes. Yes. Because when I play a video game, let me be very clear about this, okay? If I were to, what game, what's the most recent game I've played? Schedule 1, Destiny 2, right? Red Dead Redemption, well, that's a while ago. Sea of Thieves, Smite, right? If I were to jump on any of these games and I were to get a shitload of fucking Trump, vote for Trump, this is why you should vote for Trump, that's going to turn me away. Because I don't play video games for confirmation bias. I play it to escape this fucked up world we live in. I need a break from it all. Notice, so I do want to say this. Bungie, Destiny 2, right? That game. They always push the political shit really, 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 really far. I don't play that game anymore. Because when I go into Destiny 2, I want to be my character. The hunter that can jump around and exploding lightning punch a bunch of shit and get some cool guns and hang out with my buddies. And yeah, we can scream and argue about how who fucked up what playing what we were playing, but I'm still escaping from the real world. But then every time I turn that fucking game on, I get some kind of ad for Trans Awareness Week. Or just Bungie virtue signaling to me how much they support XYZ community. Right? I'm going onto a game to get away from this shit. If anything, it's immersion breaking. Right? In Destiny, I'm a guardian. And the Traveler, this massive ball of fucking light magic, has blessed me with powers. And there's metaphysical beings that can shift and turn everything black into the final shape to where nothing moves, nothing is alive, everything is dead. And I'm fighting that thing to keep the light going. To keep life moving, breathing. And you're going to throw a fucking trans flag in my face? It just blows my fucking mind, dude. Due to the recent backlash concerning comments from Sweet Baby Inc. CEO Kim Belair have resurfaced that have only added fuel to the fire, as well as other controversial statements by its employees. Yeah, because see, these people, they're in the ivory tower, and they think that they can say whatever the fuck they want because they're way up there, and we're way down here. And anything they say is looking down their nose. But they're not separate from us. If everyday people said things along these lines that they're saying these things, people just tell them to shut the fuck up. That's exactly what's happening here. Shut up. We don't want to hear what you have to say. You went to college. Great. That doesn't mean you get to dictate what should and should not be believed in society. Fuck your degree. It's that simple. Speaking at the Game Developers Conference in 2019, Belair said, if you're a creative working in AAA, which AAA is getting fucking smacked by indie games right now, put this stuff up to your higher-ups. If they don't see the value of what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want. These people are cultural terrorists. That's what these people are. Because, yes, no one's dying. No one's setting off bombs. But you're essentially extorting people in your company. She's asking people to extort people in their company so they can get what they want. See, it's funny. They're trying to use mafia tactics. And it worked for a while. I mean, you had a bunch of marketing nerds and shit that didn't want to lose their jobs, so they just went along with it. But now that, like, in a general sense, people are kind of going, hey, don't actually care what you think about this. They're getting fucking beat up, man. And it's beautiful. And it's going to keep happening. The world is healing. Old post from Sweet Baby Inc. employee Felix Kramer also paint a rather disturbing picture and viewpoint on male white gamers. They wrote, pay me to shoot down your white male game lead ideas, and had a nightmare that I was a white male gamer. See, like, this is... These people are just insane. They're insane, dude. Like, I don't... I just had a thought about trying this again with a photo of a young white person about to be ripped open, but I'm betting folks would immediately flag it as traumatic, and I'm guessing the image would get taken down before responses accumulated. I usually get grossed out when straight white rich people kiss, but even I think those two are pretty cute. And, like, luckily these opinions are incredibly unpopular. This was seen by almost 2,000 people and it got 8 likes. Like, these takes are not popular. The shit these people think does not represent a large swath of how most people think. Another ex-Sweet Baby Inc. employee named Danny Lalanders admitted to not hiring white people in an interview with game devs of Color Expo and said sometimes it's hard to work with white people, and because they wanted to create a safe environment free of microaggressions. This is losership. Losership. It worked for a little bit. It's loser shit, though. It's the snake eating its own tail. And it's so beautiful. So beautiful to see this. I mean, it really is. Like, Lalanders is currently the narrative designer at Cliffhanger Games, an EA-owned studio working on a game based on Marvel's Black Panther. Yeah, and guess what just got shut down? Cliffhanger Games. That Black Panther game that they were working on for so long. Down the fucking shitter, man. Sweet Baby Inc. has also recently been accused of trying to demand $7 million in guidance fees from a Chinese developer working on the game Black Myth Wukong. Oh, dude, that was a fantastic game, though. Yeah. See, they tried to fucking extort this company, and the company said, fuck you, and they didn't get shit. Chinese media reported that developer Game Science refused to work with Sweet Baby Inc. Absolutely. Dude, these Chinese game companies, bro, I'm telling you, they're watching American video game developers right now, Western video game developers, and they're just getting a fat fucking list of all the shit they should not do. I mean, they're just, 1, no DEI bullshit. 2, no trans bullshit. 3, make women attractive in the game. 4, make men attractive in the game. 5, no gender abstract bullshit in the games. Like, I mean, like, they are literally. Marvel Rivals is a prime example. That game came out, boom, hundreds of thousands of people playing. Immediately. Should you care about Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement in video games? That's entirely up to you. Some people won't care that Sweet Baby Inc. is involved with the creation of many beloved games. Many beloved games? Many? That's a funny word to use there. And franchises, and may see it as a positive, while others will see it as problematic and unnecessary. However, for a company that is supposedly proud of its work and wants to make the gaming industry a safer, more inclusive space, seeing its employees try to ban a Steam creator group and cancel the creator for simply highlighting its involvement seems at odds with that message. Yes, if you're proud of what you're doing, why do you care if people know what you're involved with? See, I don't know any of these games except for these two right here. Of course, they put Alan Wake 2 in the beginning because it won Game of the Year, but it has yet to turn a profit. This is the only good game I know that they're associated with. Okay, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, that was a good game. Flintlock was a failure. That was a failure. That was a failure. So I don't even know any of these other games, man. They were part of Valhalla. They were part of God of War Ragnarok. Like, I mean, there's something to be said for Alan Wake 2 being Game of the Year. But again, it has yet to turn a profit, which calls into question it being Game of the Year at all. Okay, that's the end of this one. All right. I do want to go through this. This is from the Corporate Finance Institute. This just goes over ESG score and DEI score. So, but I want to go through that right after I read this, that Park Place article. Sweet Baby Inc. exposed. YouTuber uncovers shocking alleged origin story and hidden founder erased from history. Talking about Kim Belair. A new expose from YouTube channel called Gothic Therapy, hosted by Master of the TDS and Writing Raven, has exploded across gaming circles, pulling back the curtain on the origin of one of the most controversial narrative consultancies in the industry, Sweet Baby Inc. Long positioned as a boutique firm dedicated to uplifting marginalized voices through storytelling, the company now faces devastating allegations that its very foundation is a fabricated cover story and that it may have government roots. The video, ominously titled "The End of the Sweet Baby Lie," goes far beyond the typical criticism of DEI influence in gaming. It claims to uncover a buried founder, falsified company records, and what could be deep ties to the Canadian government. If what's alleged, I mean, they're French Canadian, so that makes sense. If what's alleged in the video is true, Sweet Baby Inc.'s rise in the gaming industry was not organic, but orchestrated. So, I know that I probably am not going to, I'm not going to be able to monetize the video if I react to somebody else, at least on YouTube. Any kind of help with that would be great, but we'll see what happens. I may not react. So I did earlier today. My stream from yesterday was taken down because I had Tchaikovsky in the beginning. When like the Lowerclass take on Big Pharma and government had a Grateful Dead song in the beginning, and that didn't get taken down. It's just weird. I'm still learning all this shit. The Sweet Baby myth falls apart. Sweet Baby Inc. claims it was founded in 2018 by Kim Belair, Dave Bedard, and Ariadne McGillivray, three friends with a dream of reforming game narratives. The press-friendly origin story of Sweet Baby Inc. has been repeated in interviews, panels, and keynotes for years. But Gothic Therapy dug into Canadian government filings and discovered that the real story begins with someone else entirely, a man named Terrence Jason Huberts. According to incorporation records, Terrence Jason Huberts was listed on day one as vice president, director, and shareholder. His name appears as one of the actual founding members of the company in 2018, alongside Kim Belair and Ariadne, whatever. But here's the twist. Hubert's name was quietly scrubbed from the record a year later in a corporate correction. His shares were retroactively reassigned to Belair, effectively rewriting the past and removing him from history. Bedard was only brought into the company in 2020 as chief operations officer, years after the company's incorporation, and yet he has frequently been referred to as a co-founder. This timeline simply doesn't add up, and that's just the beginning. The Montreal Condo and the Dead Shell Company. Ooh. See, this is juicy. I have not read this article yet, so interested to see what we find here. On May 21st, 2018, from a single Montreal condo unit, 1414 Rue Comédie Apartment 101, two companies were incorporated by Terrence Jason Huberts. One was a numbered company, 107-92357 Canada Inc., which was quietly dissolved in 2021, and the other was Sweet Baby Inc. Same man, same condo, same day, one was discarded. The other grew into a media darling, helping shape AAA games under the guise of narrative justice. Yeah, failure. Absolute fucking failure. Yet the man who started it all, completely gone. No website mention, no interviews, no social presence, no credit. Gothic Therapy calls it what it appears to be here. Calls it what it appears to be, erasure. LinkedIn, no public records, no explanation for why a co-founder would be wiped from existence, but then came a potential clue. In the late 1980s, a man named Terry Hubert served as a member of British Columbia's Legislative Assembly and Minister of Parks. In his sparse interviews from the time, he publicly mentioned having a son named Jason. Ah. Okay, Spider-Man 2, Black Spider-Man. That's what they did. Black Spider-Man. I haven't heard much about the game, so I'm sure it did amazing. You know, it was absolute #1 hit on Steam, I'm guessing. That name match isn't trivial. Neither is what came next. Gothic Therapy uncovers that one of Terrence Jason Hubert's companies listed a business address at 475 Elgin Street in Ottawa, while Terry Hubert's years later operated a veterinary clinic at 475 Broadmead Village in Victoria. Two entirely different cities, but with the same suite number. 475. According to the channel, the statistical odds of these overlapping names, family connections, and address numbers aligning by pure coincidence is 1 in 100 million. I mean, that doesn't really mean all that much. Like, they could have easily bought it, because purchased or rented that out because of the number. Like, that's a stretch, right? The framework that changes everything. In 1989, as Minister of Parks, Terry Huberts authored a government policy framework that outlined how private contractors could be embedded within public systems quietly, efficiently, and without public scrutiny. That's pretty fucking interesting. If Terrence Jason Huberts is the same man or the son of that man, then Gothic Therapy alleges Sweet Baby Inc. may have been structured from the beginning to operate similarly as an embedded narrative force within gaming companies, a consultancy with a mission not just to tell stories but to control them. If this is the same man, then Sweet Baby Inc. wasn't built to tell stories. Master of the TDS said in the video. It was created by the Canadian government from day one, structured by an insider disguised as a consultancy used to control the narrative. Okay, so I stuff like this, I always take it with a grain of salt, okay? If they can prove the things that they're saying, because these are some pretty big claims that this narrative company was established by the Canadian government and got its hand into the American video gaming market, that's a pretty big claim. I'm not saying that it's not possible. I just want to see the proof. Because they're making a lot of claims here. But I'm not really seeing proof, right? So, let's keep reading. The government response that raises more questions. Following the video's release, Gothic Therapy sent a formal request to the British Columbia Legislative Assembly asking for Terry Hubert's full legal name. The response, they couldn't confirm it. Okay. Because candidates are not required to use their legal names on ballots or in parliamentary documents, the Assembly could neither confirm nor deny whether Terry Huberts was short for Terrence Jason Huberts. In the words of Gothic Therapy, the truth was never meant to be found, but we found it anyway. See, now that's an interesting thing because, you know, the guy Terrence said he had a son named Jason, but if his middle name's Jason, I mean, that makes sense. I know a couple people that named their kid their middle name, right? They gave them their middle name. That's not uncommon. So, makes sense. In the words of Gothic Therapy, the truth was never meant to be found, but we found it anyway. The alias that wasn't supposed to be found. Even more chilling, Gothic Therapy discovered that Sweet Baby Inc. registered a second business alias, Design Sweet Baby, on the exact same day as the original filing. It has no public use, no branding, no clear purpose. The theory, it was a lifeboat identity, a backup plan in case the first brand faced collapse. Okay, that's a theory. Yeah. What is the true origin of Sweet Baby Inc.? If what Gothic Therapy revealed is accurate, Sweet Baby Inc. is not the grassroots, justice-driven narrative firm it claims to be. It's a company with a falsified origin, a buried founder, and possible ties to Canadian government operations. The erasure of Terrence Jason Huberts, the rewriting of company filings, the statistical overlap with a government official, the second secret alias, all of it paints a potential picture, not of idealism, but of orchestration. People have speculated that Sweet Baby Inc. might be receiving government funding, Master of TDS said. Speculated. Big word. That does a lot of heavy lifting here. Okay, still have yet to see any proof. But if this connection is real, then the company wasn't just funded by the Canadian government. It was built by a former government official from the very beginning. And when that truth threatened the image, they rewrote it. Not because it didn't matter, because it mattered too much to let you see. And I mean, you know, there's definitely, it holds some water a little bit because they don't like people getting the information out there of what video games they're involved in. That would make sense to some degree, right? Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but it is interesting how they're very vehemently against people knowing what shit that they're involved in. If gaming companies are still working with Sweet Baby Inc., they might want to ask who really founded this company. What's the origin of Sweet Baby Inc., and what exactly are you letting them write? Okay. So here's the comment section. A Canadian psyop. Man, just when you didn't think it'd get any worse. Most evils come from the government. This goes double for the Canadian government. This is just the continuation of the mind control beer from Strange Brew. Canada has been firmly in the clutches of Chinese and Russian communist influencers for a long time. They knew they couldn't easily get to America, so they got to our neighbors and did the work that way. Now we're weakened, growing, fat, lazy, and stupid because of it. At least we can all see Mexico for what it is, a haven for drug dealers and human traffickers, but it's taken a while for Canada to reveal itself as the tip of the spear for socialist re-engineering. The question is now, what are we going to do about it? Well, Canada doesn't exactly have a lot of really popular economic policies. People aren't super on board with that shit. Okay. So, ESG score. This ties directly into Sweet Baby Inc. These are the things that they push for. These are the narratives that they consult on, right? This is the big bazooka here. I'm going to look up the ESG score. Is there a Is there a DEI score as well? I'm interested in that. Or does that tie into ESG? I'm pretty sure it's just ESG, right? ESG score, an objective evaluation of a company, a fund, or a security's performance measured against environmental, social, and governance criteria. What is an ESG score? An ESG score is an objective measurement or evaluation of a given company, fund, or security's performance with respect to environmental, social, and governance issues, ESG. Specific evaluation criteria vary between the different rating platforms that issue ESG scores. However, they all fall within one or more of the E, S, or G categories. ESG scoring systems tend to be either industry-specific or industry-agnostic. Industry-specific scoring systems assess issues that have been deemed material to the industry at large. Industry-agnostic ESG scores tend to incorporate widely accepted factors that are meaningful across industries, issues like climate change, diversity, equity, inclusion, and human rights. Gay! ESG rating platforms determine a weighting for each measurement criterion. Then they assess an organization's performance against each criterion. The organization's final ESG score is typically a sum product of the criteria ratings and the proprietary criteria weightings. Weightings, okay. Key takeaways. An ESG score is an evaluation of an organization's performance against various sustainability metrics related to either environmental, social, or governance issues. ESG scores are generated by rating platforms where analysts evaluate corporate disclosures, conduct management interviews, and review publicly available information about an organization to provide an objective rating on the organization's performance to their criteria. Scores that are used differently by different stakeholders, i.e. investors versus employees, and rating platforms have evolved to reflect this variety of use cases. How do ESG scores work? Increasingly, management teams at public companies are being required by stock markets and government bodies to provide ESG disclosure. Why is the government getting involved in this? With their quarterly and annual reporting. In order to report clear and relevant metrics in a standardized format, they will select a reporting framework. Some common frameworks are the Global Reporting Initiative, the GRI, the Principles for Responsible Investment, PRI, and Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, the SASB. When companies' management teams disclose ESG information without the use of an appropriate framework, it's often referred to as greenwashing. Okay, so when they lie about their ESG shit, they call it greenwashing. So there's like a whole framework for all of this. Stakeholders and rating agencies interested in producing ESG scores will review these company or fund disclosures, then conduct management interviews, compare results and metrics of other companies in the industry, and present an ESG score for the company. ESG raters help build or help bridge the gap between an organization's disclosures and the general public's interpretation of the organization's ESG behaviors and performance. Scores are also used by the financial analyst community to help inform capital allocation decisions. So this doesn't fucking matter. They want this to matter. This is what matters. I love how they put that last, and it's also used by the financial analyst community to help inform capital allocation decisions, when I promise you, the public doesn't give a fuck about ESG. Most people don't care. Promise you. This is what's important. The scores are also used by the financial analyst community to help inform capital allocation decisions. So if they follow an ESG score, or if they follow this ESG format, they're going to get more money from investment firms. It's broad language. Let's expound on it then. Who measures performance and assigns an ESG score? These scoring systems can be from finance and investment firms, consulting groups, standard setting bodies, non-governmental organizations that get taxpayers' money, and even government agencies that get taxpayers' money. So taxpayers' money is being used, another example of it being used, by investment firms, well, alongside investment firms, to score these companies on shit that the general public doesn't even give a fuck about. Broadly speaking, however, there are two major categories of raters that generate ESG scores. Those are external and internal stakeholders. Stakeholders, shareholders, same fucking thing. And that's going to be these guys. The finance and investment firms. These are the ones that hold the stakes. They put the money in. External stakeholders rating platforms. External stakeholders consume company disclosures, review publicly available information, and conduct primary research with company management about the organization's sustainability efforts. Examples include ISS, Institutional Shareholder Services, is one of the largest institutional investor advisory services in the world. They have a variety of scoring systems, including issue-specific scores like carbon risk rating or its water risk rating, and category-specific measures like its governance score. What's a governance score? I'd like to know what that is. As well as an overall corporate rating. The CDP. CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project, is a non-governmental NGO that publishes ESG ratings, particularly around environmental factors. See, non-governmental organization is just an organization outside of the government that's getting taxpayers' dollars. It's publicly funded in some sense. CDP is known for its level of rigor in conducting primary research directly with issuers as opposed to relying on an organization's voluntary disclosures. MCSI, Sustainalytics, it's so fucking cringe. S&P TrueCost are examples of financial services entities that measure and present ESG ratings for public consumption. Internal stakeholders. Internal ESG scores in the form of ESG scorecards are also used to gauge performance within an organization. In fact, more and more entities are creating in-house scoring systems to monitor and report on their own performance. The purposes of internal ratings include, but are not limited to, comparing performance across business units or geographical markets, measuring actual results against specific issues affecting company stakeholders like customers, suppliers, or employees, conducting horizontal analysis to measure changes in performance period over period. Environmental, social governance. Ass. G. What does an ESG score mean? High ESG scores are constantly moving target, as the scores are frequently impacted by the performance of other industry players, macro industry trends, and alterations to the scoring platform's internal methodologies. Scores are also hard to assess in absolute terms. See, so here's one of the things, right, that gets me when it comes to Sweet Baby Inc. sticking their fucking dirty fingers into these. Video games aren't environmentally harmful anymore. It's literally all software. Like, people don't go out and buy the plastic covers with the disc inside. People buy games. You buy a license for a game online. They send you the fucking data for it. Like, that's how video games work. So E isn't even in this. All there is this social and governance aspect, which I'm still trying to get an understanding on what governance is. I get it. Social's all the fucking the DEI and, LGBT inclusivity bullshit and all that. The representation of all different races, because that's really important in today's society, the color of your skin. I mean, these two are the only things that could go into gaming, and I still don't even really have a conscious understanding on what governance is. Maybe I'm going to get some of that reading through this. Scores are also hard to assess in absolute terms. However, all other things being equal, an organization that consistently achieves high ESG scores across a variety of rating platforms is likely to perform well relative to its peers. Perform well. Very vague language. Perform well in what sense, right? When it comes to, like, bringing a profit to your shareholders? And why would that be? What's the incentive and what's the criteria of performing well? I'm not trying to read between the lines here. It's very vague language that's being used. And I'm a lower class dipshit, right? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Leveraging insight from a given ESG score in a meaningful way can only be achieved by understanding the broader context of the situation, as well as knowing what inputs are being measured and what kind of weightings are being used to arrive at a particular score. So they've orchestrated this entire framework on how corporations function, but what is the incentive? ESG scoring systems are, how are ESG scores used in the market? This should be, oh, there's some more resources here that we could look through. Corporate social responsibility. There's another fucking buzzword for you. ESG scoring systems are created for different use cases, for different stakeholders, based on their associated needs. Some are designed to support capital allocation decisions like investments or assessing credit risk. This is what matters to them, right? This is what matters. It's money. This may be an unpopular opinion. I genuinely don't think this large corporate push for all this shit is because they actually believe any of it. I think that they just put way too much money behind these really fringe ideas, and they need to make the money back. They're trying to save their investments. I genuinely don't think it's a belief thing. They have a bunch of fucking NPCs in everyday life that believe this shit. But these people who are at the tops, your Larry Finks and all that, these people don't believe in any of this shit. I need a hard case to show they believe in it, because they've already proven all they give a fuck about is the bottom line. That's it. They haven't proven they give a fuck about anything. And it's the same thing with, like, Mark Zuckerberg, right? Old Zuck. So with Mark Zuckerberg, he was totally down with the whole liberal shit and all that. Until Trump got shot. And now he puts a chain on, grows his hair out a little bit, he's buffing up. I mean, these people don't have any kind of structured belief system. I don't believe that. I mean, I could be wrong, right? I don't believe they have any kind of structured belief system. All of their decision making points in one direction: money. I'm not saying money bad. I'm just highlighting the fact that these people cannot be trusted. Whatever kind of values they claim to hold, whatever kind of virtues that they signal, none of it's real. It's not. They want one thing and one thing only, and that is the bottom line. And they are willing to grift. They're willing to manipulate. They're willing to do whatever they can to achieve the bottom fucking line. And that's it. For example, CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project, is an NGO scoring system for corporate performance on a variety of environmental issues like carbon emissions, climate change, water, and forestry. See, why is an NGO rating the private sector? Why? We do not need that level of regulation. We do not need public funds going into any kind of scoring system for the private sector. This is a free market. CDP is popular within the investment community, and asset managers can use positive and negative screening to identify top or bottom performers with respect to environmental issues. Just Capital is a consumer-focused NGO scoring system that assesses corporate performance on stakeholder issues, such as how a company creates value for its employees, suppliers, and local communities. Just Capital may be leveraged by consumers or prospective employees when searching for a company to buy from or to work for. In virtually all cases, these methodologies are being updated regularly, making one's understanding of evolving ESG factors important when trying to interpret or get actionable insight from a given score. This article was prepared in collaboration with Row Impact. All right, so ESG companies meet the players. ESG in the regulatory environment. Corporate social responsibility, CSR, impact investing, rating agencies, see all ESG resources. What? No, I don't want to get no. Let's try this again. Go fuck yourself. ESG companies meet the players. Oh! ESG in the regulatory environment. The reason I'm touching on this solely, it has to do with Sweet Baby Inc. Sweet Baby Inc. is essentially a company that pushes for video game developers to maintain an ESG score. That's how they get so much overhead. These investments they get when they put this like crazy fringe controversial shit into their video games, they get money for it. And I genuinely believe that these developers, the ones that are working there now, have all phased out the good video game developers that used to work in these AAA companies, and they're fucking terrible at making good video games, so they rely on this horse shit to get investment from Wall Street. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. When you have games that have $200 million put into them, in the case of Concord, not once ever broke 700 players. A AAA fucking game. With 200, possibly more, $1 million in investment into the game. Where did that money come from? Promise it came from this. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's what it looks like. Performance is rapidly changing the regulatory environment and associated stakeholder expectations for businesses around the world. Investors, analysts, directors, and management teams alike are seeing the need to apply an ESG lens to virtually every decision-making process, from where to deploy capital and who to partner with to which new markets to enter. In terms of the emerging regulatory environment, three key topics are thematically consistent across global ESG disclosure regulations. These regulations boil down to the following: human capital management, ESG fund parameters, climate risk management. Human capital management. I really hope they expound on that. It's just a weird. Let's fuck it. I'm gonna look this shit up. No, it's Adobe. You're not gonna get into my account. Don't worry about it. Human capital management. It's a broad set of practices and technologies that focuses on attracting, developing, engaging, and retaining employees as valuable assets. Ugh. It's just so dehumanizing, man. It's more than just traditional human resources functions. HCM has a strategic approach, integrating HR with overall business goals to maximize the workforce's potential. Okay, so it's just bloating the HR department. That's what that is. Human capital management is the bloat of human resources in a corporation. Ass. ESG fund parameters. Let's look into that. ESG fund parameters. Yes. So they have an entire. Yes. Exactly. Let's take it from the folks themselves. ESG investing. It's all for money. All the environmental shit, all the social shit. It's all for money. They don't actually believe in any of this shit. They're just trying to capitalize on an investment that is not working. And the reason that there's so much pushback and so much propaganda pumped into these fucking retards' minds in this country is so they can make back the money that they shelled out, and it's not working. View all ESG funds. And by the way, I highly fucking doubt we're gonna get any dollar figures here. You know, I just there's an investment minimum. The lowest amount they can invest: 50K, 50K, 3K, $1, 3K, 3K. This is what all this comes down to. I mean, it's very, like, I I understand how people believe this is a culture war. This is just corporate overreach. That's what it is. That's all it is, right? It's corporatocracy. These investment firms control these markets with these sorts of things. In an economic downturn, companies that are not going to make as much are going to turn to this for capital investment. COVID was probably their high point. It had to be. Companies all over the country were going under, left and right, and they needed some form of cash injection. And when you take companies like Vanguard and BlackRock, State Street, Jane Street, companies that, like, by and large are owned by each other, like they're shareholders in each other, if they make investments into these companies, when those companies come back from something like COVID, they probably profited to the tunes of multiple trillions of dollars. But they create this criteria that companies have to abide by so they can, with the hopes that it's going to make things that they've invested in a priority to society. Like, I genuinely don't believe, like, when it comes to, people talk conspiracies and all that, I'm not a massive conspiracy guy, but when it comes to a lot of these things, it's very practical to look at these things from a perspective of the bottom line. A dollar, like money, right? When I look at these things from that lens, it totally makes sense. Like, I'm not the kind of person that thinks there's like a cabal of people that are sitting around a table with like dark hoods and they're scheming evilly on how to kill society or whatever. No, like I genuinely believe most of these things that happen today are a product of someone trying to profit off of it. That's profit and have some element of control, right? Like the electric vehicle thing. Just a quick digression here, but gas is a tradable commodity. Electricity is not. My cars run on gas, and I have 3 tanks worth of gas in my apartment. Let's just say, like, I don't, right? I can put that in my car, and my car will continue to move. But if the power grid were ever to go down, and I had an electric car, I'm fucked. The fuck am I going to charge my car with? Centralize. You centralize transportation to one industry. It's not good. Not a fan, right? It's just my opinion. Anyway, a rising focus on corporate, environmental, social, and government performance is rapidly changing the regulatory environment. Wait, did I already start reading this? Yes, I did. Ah, yeah, I was right here. because I was looking at these things. Okay. Each topic is included in some shape or form across ESG disclosure regulations specific to key global markets such as the United States, the EU, China, Singapore, the UK, and more. These regulations are rapidly changing what disclosure information is required by law and, in turn, changing the due diligence process and associated context for financial analysts worldwide. The number one ESG issue people don't care about is climate. Isn't climate, it's people. Look, people care about the climate. And like I genuinely believe, yeah, like shit's getting hotter, right? But I don't think I just myself, no one has shown any evidence to what degree human activity is responsible for the climate change. And it's a little easier to kind of explain by like this pole shift that we're going through right now. You know, like the North Pole is slowly moving into Russia, like what is commonly perceived as the North Pole, right? It is no longer in the same place that it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it may be. And as the world turns, certain aspects are shown more sunlight, they're given more exposure to the sun, ice is going to melt, different areas are going to freeze over. I mean, it's like not a really insanely hard concept to wrap the head around. Plus, if ice is melting, what's underneath the ice? More land. Maybe underneath these melted ice banks that are, you know, in the North and South Pole, we'll be able to open up massive swaths of farmland that we can grow more food on. Imagine that. That's a crazy thought, isn't it? Like, I try to stay in the middle of these issues, but you see, one side is very like when it comes to these real like fringe issues. Both sides have their like radicals, but one side is lunatics about it. And even if they have like good points with the world getting hotter or whatever it may be, they don't look at these things in a practical way. So the world's getting hotter, we're all gonna die. And then decisions are made out of panic. The regulatory environment and the people working these policies and standards have followed suit. According to Just Capital, an ESG research and rating nonprofit, the number one issue the public cared about in 2021 wasn't climate change, it was employees. And the 2022 data are pointing in a similar direction. The regulatory environment and the people working on these policies and standards have followed suit. For example, the United States and the European Union and Singapore have incorporated disclosure requirements for public companies regarding their HCM practices and performance. Namely, these regulations are the Human Capital Disclosure Rule for public companies, the Non-Financial Reporting Directive, and the Enhanced ESG Disclosure Regulations for investment funds trading. Now, what exactly is HCM? This is that human capital management we were talking about earlier. Human capital management is broad in nature and refers to all things people within a company or an organization. Key human capital management topics include talent management, compensation and benefits, diversity, equity, inclusion, fucking HR bloat. These regulations require the public disclosure of companies' organizational development practices, programs, and benefits, upper management demographics, and employee engagement, retention, and development strategies. While human capital management, and I know I'm not abbreviating it, ultimately a business is run by people. Those people need to be led and managed effectively towards a common goal in order for a business to be successful. What is your definition? See, these are some pretty off-the-cuff words they're using here. Those people need to be led and managed effectively toward a common goal. What's the common goal? And what's your definition of a business being successful? The way they speak about this is so fucking like, ugh. I get real big World Economic Forum vibes from this kind of talk. You need to be led and managed effectively toward a common goal. What fucking common goal? What's the common goal? And what is your definition of success? Measuring human capital management performance is imperative. I fucking hate that. It's so cringe, dude. Human capital management. Ugh. While human capital management affects all stakeholders, investors and analysts should pay special attention to a company's human capital management strategy. According to Accenture, human capital risks are those which negatively affect the company's ability to be organizationally resilient in the long term. Human capital risks. I want to get a definition on that. Fuck you, Vanguard. All right. Human capital risks are those associated with an organization's workforce, impacting its ability to achieve strategic and operational goals. All right, I need specifics here. These risks stem from various factors like employee behaviors, skills, and ethical conduct, potentially hindering an organization's operations, resilience, and overall success. When you work for us, you better get fucking right. You're going to do what we say what we say, think what we say. That's what this is. It's corporatocracy bullshit. This is what they want from the American people right here. Easy. Step the fuck in line. They don't have any concept of how they can thrive and make more money when people are individuals. When they just are who they are. That is a risk to their bottom line. And they have, it's so funny how they have the left wing, because I used to consider myself left wing. I don't anymore. No way. I used to consider myself left wing because the left wing used to be the individualist party, right? And it was the right wing that pushed for this kind of bullshit. And somewhere along the line, the people that had fucked the Republican Party and turned it from the individualist party it was in the 1800s to what it is now, or to what it was before Trump, they got their greedy fucking hands on the left wing, the Democrats. Did it start with Clinton? Did it start with Obama? Did it start long before any of this? Maybe that was just my perspective on the left wing growing up, because I had such a hatred for like the Bush administration. But this is who these people are now, right? Like yesterday when I was looking through Kamala Harris's campaign contributions, Future Forward USA and Harris for president, like Future Forward USA, who donated like $500 million to her campaign, is run by two people, a husband and wife. I can't remember their names, Emily Berger and the other guy, who work for Jane Street. That's Wall Street. They also started Anthropic, which is where Claude AI came from. Anyway, it directly affects the costs associated with employee turnover, retention, litigation, and whistleblowing. A structured human capital strategy will see. They don't want this, right? If a company's doing something fucked up, you're a human capital risk, like homeboy with Boeing that went down the sewer slide. Structured human capital strategy will mitigate these potential risks while increasing the company's resilience in managing change. Increased resilience and employee engagement will lead to greater productivity, profitability, and overall longevity. Get back to fucking work. Do what I told you to do. You better not think that way. Shut your fucking mouth. Sorry, Bubba. It's just a meme, I promise. This directly influences an investor's returns and fiduciary responsibilities to clients. The bottom line is, there's a compelling case to be made that investors should seek out companies with active and methodical human capital policies, practices, programs, and performance measures. They don't see us as people. That's why, kind of noticed there's not a whole bunch of pride shit going on right now, and we're 3 days into June. Must not be a very good investment. I mean, if you look at the way that all this pride stuff has been reacted to over the past couple years, if they really gave a fuck, they'd do it anyway. But it's not they don't care about that community. They don't care about the LBGTQ whatever. They don't care about that. It's about money. They thought they had the narrative controlled, and they ended up on the losing side of it. Somebody in upper management, wherever these calls get made, said, this is really unpopular, so let's double down. And double down again. And double down again. And again. And again. And again. And again. And the market corrected itself. This will ensure both compliance with respect to disclosure regulations and a more sustainable advantage over industry competitors. Within your framework, it will. Within your framework that sees people as capital. Which, when we looked into this earlier, retaining employees as valuable assets. We're not people that you work alongside, that work for you. They're assets. They're property. As a company, building a strong human capital strategy that encompasses all areas mentioned above is key to long-term success in the time of the Great Resignation and work from home employees. In the time of the Great Resignation and work from home employees have more employment choices and are demanding more flexibility than ever before. Given these realities, it's critical to address these concerns around people practices proactively. And it's important not only for a firm's reputation, but also for its operations and customer acquisition pipeline. For instance, having strong DEI programs and policies in place is thought to attract more customers and produce a more efficient workforce, by bringing in diverse mindsets and solutions. These people are supposed to be geniuses. Strong DEI programs are not thought to attract more customers because vast swaths of the population of this country boycott companies that do this. They got it wrong. These are the experts. This is what the fucking experts think. They're wrong. When you spend enough time circle jerking with everyone in that ivory tower, you forget how the rest of us think and live. They have no connection to us. They don't care about our well-being. They care about their bottom dollar. And these are the highest contributors in our political system. I'm not an anti-capitalist. I am a capitalist. I love capitalism. It's brought more people out of poverty than any other economic system in human history. These people don't care about capitalism. Capitalism is a free market where competition is encouraged, and may the best business win. But these investment firms have created frameworks to ensure that massive corporations that they hold shares in will be able to profit because smaller companies that can't navigate all of these regulations these smaller companies, they don't have the money to do that. So the bigger companies that can afford to do the fucking environmental shit and have all these fucking DEI programs or whatever, companies that have the money to do that, they can get the extra funding to compensate for the money put out on these things, right? I'm so glad these people are losing, dude. I'm so glad. See, that's the thing with me, right? Is Trump getting elected was one of the biggest nails in the coffin for this like Wall Street overreach that we're seeing in our market today. That's the scariest thing. I've only been streaming for a few days, and I have seen so much terrifying shit about how our government and these Wall Street firms create false markets to benefit themselves. And that's what ESG is. It's a false market, right? It's not a free market. They orchestrate these ranking systems for companies that can afford to enforce them. The companies that can afford to enforce them get more funding from these investment firms, which gives them this, it's artificial. It gives them an artificial head start, a leg up in the market. And the reason they're getting the money is because these investment firms that have these stakes have like a vested interest in these companies doing better. The better these companies do, the more money they make. I'm not well read on a lot of this shit. It's just fucking out there. These investment firms are stifling competition within our markets to benefit themselves. And if you watch my big pharma video, our government puts money towards that. Growing demand, growing diligence requirements. Oh, Charlie, you okay, buddy? Hey, Bobo. You barky? Come here. You okay? I love this little bastard. All right. Financial institutions are starting to integrate ESG funds into their standard financial product offerings and incorporating these concepts into their business models. The US, EU, UK, and Singapore have all stressed the importance of labeling parameters and detailed disclosure of ESG investment strategies through policy action. Specifically, any entity selling a fund that merely mentions ESG, sustainability, or impact will now be required to report on specific factors related to these claims. These factors include detailed disclosure of how ESG issues are incorporated into their screening process, investment strategy, and client communications. Additional areas include discussion about potential material impacts these investments could have on the environment and society at large. Yes, it's already having an effect on society at large. That's why people are turning away from these things. Because it's not a positive impact on society. You're taking the soul out of all of these things. They fucking look at us like we're assets. They don't care about us. According to CNBC, a record $69.2 billion was invested in ESG funds in 2021. There are literally hundreds of ESG funds available to U.S. investors, making the buying process inherently complex and onerous. What does that mean? Like I said, I'm a fucking lower class dipshit, man. Involving an amount of effort and difficulty that is oppressively burdensome. There are literally hundreds of ESG funds available to U.S. investors, making the buying process inherently complex and onerous. As a prospective investor, our due diligence process should include a screening of the fund's investment strategy. We should also look at whether the fund manager has completed a materiality assessment, whether it reports on potentially negative consequences or externalities of its investments, and how its internal methodology complies with emerging disclosure regulations and mandates. The bottom line is stronger ESG disclosure mandates mean that the fund managers will have to conduct more comprehensive due diligence. This reduces the risk of greenwashing and increases the likelihood that investor dollars will be allocated as presented. Okay, so it's again, it's another power grab, right? These fund managers, what it seems like they're saying is they want some form of guarantee and government it seems like what they're leading into here, and this is just how I've read this. They want the government to enforce these things. Some level of government enforcement on these things. And that could start with just the government being there to clarify exactly what companies are actually meeting up to these standards within this framework that they've created. That's what it seems like to me. Because they're leading towards this, well, these poor fund managers have just such a fucking terrible job. It's so crazy. They're going to have to do all this stuff. if we could just get Big Daddy government to come in, these poor fund managers wouldn't have to do so much work. It's not like our government doesn't already fucking work with these people in some degrees. Not here necessarily. So, like, that's. Maybe I'm just, like, a pessimist, but when I read these kinds of things, that's where my mind goes with it, right? Institutions that construct ESG funds must ensure compliance with these new regulations to protect the long-term success of the organization and the longevity of the fund itself. A good starting point is that each fund should present both narrative and the numbers. The narrative speaks of the what, when, where, how, and why of the fund. It is essentially the context that makes any quantified performance, or any numbers for that matter, understandable and actionable. Then we must have the numbers, including both the overall ESG performance of the fund and its portfolio companies, as well as the carbon handprint associated with the fund. So, this is what I get from it, from my pea-brain perspective. They're creating these funds, new funds for more capital. The more funds they create, the harder it is, or the more investment that these funds have out there, the harder it is for the fund managers to conduct things. So they've created this framework on these companies. We attach this score to these companies. You have to speak what we tell you to do, and you have to back it up too, in order to get into these funds. Carbon handprint. Carbon handprint refers to financed emissions, or the emissions associated with portfolio companies, whether these are equity investments or borrowers. Having both the numbers and the narrative aligned and coherent is critical to ensuring fund compliance and enhancing client uptake. All in all, integrating and aligning an ESG fund's narrative and its numbers will help investors check all the boxes when performing due diligence and help it stand out among the expanding sea of ESG funds moving into the future. Let's fucking hope not, dude. Like, fuck these people. Seriously. Changing climate, changing risks. Ugh. Climate change has been identified as not only an existential crisis. No, it's not. It's not. Can't convince me otherwise. Climate change isn't that big of a deal. The world is changing. It's not dying. Shit's gonna get hotter in some places and colder in others. Areas that were once frozen over will be melted down, and there's going to be fertile ground that has never been touched by humans before is going to be opened up for farmland. Imagine how rich the fucking soil is. Okay? Like, it's not an existential crisis. They want this. They want people to believe this. It's one of the greatest financial risks of our time for you. Because things that you have money invested in are going to lose value as the world changes. So they need people to panic. So within the panic, according to human capital management, they can get people to get into fucking line because this is how we're going to do it. This shit leads in one fucking direction. What's more, climate change is being thought of as risk accelerant, meaning it impacts a range of interconnected environmental and social risks, such as worsening the infrastructure of already marginalized communities. Get fucked with that, dude. That's an appeal. That's all that is. Want to expound on that, actually? This is a claim with no backing. Charlie, why are you scratching this couch, Bubba? Hold on. I need to go make him some food, actually. He's got kibble, he just don't have chicken. He's a fucking aristocrat. Oh no, oh, my mic was off that whole time. Oh, darn. Okay. So let me go back. What I was essentially saying, God dang, I don't even remember how far back I was. All right, so I'd gotten into the climate change thing. I'll preface all this. They are pushing to have more government influence into these things for one reason and one reason only. When they can set the standard in these frameworks with ESG, they have control over the market. What I was showing here was all disclosure regulations. In fact, the UK now requires TCFD to be followed as the climate disclosure regulation. The UK government is already involved in these investment firms, in this investment firm framework that they've created. Governance, managing climate related risks and opportunities, control. Strategy. The TCFD recommends describing identified climate related risks and opportunities, their impact on a company's strategy and financial planning, and its resilience when faced with different climate related scenarios. Control. Control based out of fear. Control. Risk management. TCFD recommends describing the process of identifying and managing climate related risks and how these processes are integrated into the company's overall risk management strategy. For targets and metrics, the TCFD recommends disclosing the goals, metrics, and KPIs being used to monitor progress against emissions. Scopes 1, 2, and 3, and additional climate-related risks and opportunities. More control. Control, 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 control over the markets. Free markets do not benefit these people. They don't want free markets. When the market can regulate itself, when the market can evolve organically, you cannot guarantee a safe investment. But they create this framework. They create this framework so they can decide what companies are going to be safe investments. And they put money into those safe investments. What does this all mean for ESG in 2023? Climate change is here, and so is the age of ESG. You got that one wrong too, buddy. And its associated regulations. As investors, analysts, and company managers, it's crucial to assess and address ESG disclosure requirements as they relate to human capital management, ESG fund parameters, and climate risk management. As a member of the finance community, being prepared to incorporate an ESG lens in all decision-making processes will help ensure a competitive advantage heading into a highly uncertain future. They just fucking say it, dude. As a member of the finance community, being prepared to incorporate an ESG lens in all decision-making processes will help ensure a competitive advantage heading into a highly uncertain future. Hedging the bets. That's what it is. That's what it's all for. That's all they care about. They don't care about anything else. All of this shit is designed for nothing but them to enhance their regulatory power on the market. They want to regulate everything. All of these frameworks that they have described here pushes power towards the investment firms. And it strips away from the free market. It strips the freedom from the market. They want the government involved on these things so the government can help them regulate their safe investments. They already do it with the pharmaceutical industry. Our tax money is already going to mitigate the risk of pharmaceutical companies that these investment firms have stakes in. And then our own laws that we created give them a false market. It hinders the competition. They don't even approve. The FDA delays approval on these other companies to create generics of these drugs that come out, specifically so they can make more money. They say it on the fucking Congressional Budget Office website. I'll pull this back up. It was a couple days ago, but it was in box 1. Researchers have found some evidence that such acquisitions by larger drug firms are sometimes motivated by large firms' desire to limit competition. According to a recent study, hold on. This just highlights that. I need to find where it talks about the FDA. The FDA delaying approval. Yes, right here. Okay. The federal government affects R&D decisions in 3 ways. First, it increases demand. They create demand through a variety of federal programs, including Medicare and Medicaid, which, let me read the whole thing, so I'm not taking shit out of context. It increases demand for prescription drugs, which encourages new drug development by fully or partially subsidizing the purchase of prescription drugs through a variety of federal programs, including Medicare and Medicaid, and by providing tax preferences for employment-based health insurance. Second, the federal government increases the supply of the new drugs. It funds basic biomedical research and provides a scientific foundation for the development of new drugs by private industry. And from what Bishal Gyawali, MD, PhD, said, those investments are the highest risk when it comes to these drugs. The early stages of development, the initial phases where they have to test the chemicals, make sure it's not going to be fucking killing people. The highest risk investments are all made by the fucking taxpayers. This is the element of control that they want. Anyway, let me keep reading, okay? Tax credits, both available by all the companies and those available to drug companies for developing treatments of uncommon diseases, provide incentives to invest in R&D. So, more taxpayers' money? Similarly, deductions for R&D investment can be used to reduce tax liabilities immediately rather than over the life of that investment. So, again, my question is, how much are they able to write off from their taxes the money that's given to them by the fucking taxpayer? Do they get a tax break on the money that we're giving them? Finally, the patent system and certain statutory provisions that delay FDA approval of generic drugs provide pharmaceutical companies with a period of market exclusivity when competition is legally restricted. During that time, this is the Congressional Budget Office website. During that time, they can maintain higher prices on a patented product than they otherwise could, which makes new drugs more profitable and thereby increases drug companies' incentives to invest in R&D. So this is what these people want. They want the same false market government influence on the global markets as they have on the pharmaceutical ones. That's what this is all about. Wall Street wants to control the global market. That's globalism. They want to be able to set the standard. They want to be able to make they want to make the safe investments. That's what they want. And with this framework, they nearly guarantee that. I'm so fucking glad these people lost, man. Oh. See, these are the folks that use the useful idiots. The useful idiots that, they're real big on, sorry, I got a little bit of work coming in. The useful idiots that are real big on socialism, real big on communism, all that. These folks don't care about that. But they hide their means of control behind the E and the S. Environment, social, the G is the big one. They want to govern. That's what these greedy fucks want to do. And they utilize popular support, what once was popular support, behind environmental and social issues to achieve the governance. I'm not going down a rabbit hole, man. I'm just reading the shit on these fucking websites. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really, Trump winning this last election is our hope to stave these fucking psychopaths that want to control the world. And no, I don't believe that it's like an evil cabal of people that want to, control everything for, some form of nefarious purpose, or whatever it may be. It could be. Who knows? I don't know. I believe they want control over the world's markets so they can ensure that they make more money. That's what it comes down to. That's what it looks like. It's what it smells like. And typically, if things walk like a duck and quack like a duck, it's a fucking duck, man. But, yeah, thanks to anybody who tuned in. I really appreciate it. That's really all I got for today's stream. I will be going into other things tomorrow. I've had a lot of fun with this. It's great learning these things. So yeah, I'll be streaming again tomorrow. Uh, I'm in Bama, so I typically start streaming around like 2, 3 o'clock Central, which is like 3, 4 Eastern. So if you want to tune in, please do, man. It'll be a pleasure learning more with y'all. Thanks, guys. Technical issues. Hold on. I don't know why it does this every time. Hold up.